On the contrary, great master. An honest natural scientist believes in the unconditional rule of natural laws in the world, without, however, taking up any position in regard to the ethical or intellectual value of these laws. Wherever neutrality is abandoned in this respect, it is owing to an anthropomorphic attitude of mind which allows reason to exceed its proper bounds. But it is just at the point where the natural scientist resigns that Strauss, to put it in his own words, reacts religiously, and leaves the scientific and scholarly standpoint in order to proceed along less honest lines of his own. Without any further warrant, he assumes that all that has happened possesses the highest intellectual quality, that it was therefore absolutely reasonably and intentionally so arranged, and that it even contained a revelation of eternal goodness. He therefore has to appeal to a complete cosmodesy, and finds himself at a disadvantage in regard to him who is contented with a theodicy, and who, for instance, regards the whole of man's existence as a punishment for sin or a process of purification. At this stage, and in this embarrassing position, Strauss even suggests a metaphysical hypothesis, the driest and most palsied ever conceived, and in reality but an unconscious parody of one of Lessing's sayings. We read on page 255, quote, "And that other saying of Lessing's, if God, holding truth in his right hand, and in his left only the ever-living desire for it, although on condition of perpetual error, left him the choice of the two, he would, considering that truth belongs to God alone, humbly seize his left hand and beg its contents for himself." This saying of Lessing's has always been accounted one of the most magnificent which he has left us. It has been found to contain the general expression of his restless love of inquiry and activity. The saying has always made a special impression upon me, because behind its subjective meaning I still seem to hear the faint ring of an objective one of infinite import. For does it not contain the best possible answer to the rude speech of Schopenhauer respecting the ill-advised God who had nothing better to do than to transform himself into this miserable world? If, for example, the Creator himself had shared Lessing's conviction of the superiority of struggle to tranquil possession. End of quote. What? A God who would choose perpetual error together with a striving after truth, and who would perhaps fall humbly at Strauss's feet and cry to him, "Take thou all truth, it is thine." If ever a God and a man were ill-advised, they are this Straussian God, whose hobby is to err and to fail, and this Straussian man, who must atone for this erring and failing. Here indeed one hears a faint ring of infinite import. Here flows Strauss's cosmic soothing oil. Here one has a notion of the rationale of all becoming and all natural laws. Really? Is not our universe rather the work of an inferior being, as Lichtenberg suggests? Of an inferior being who did not quite understand his business. Therefore an experiment, an attempt, upon which work is still proceeding. Strauss himself, then, would be compelled to admit that our universe is by no means the theatre of reason, but of error, and that no conformity to law can contain anything consoling, since all laws have been promulgated by an erratic God who even finds pleasure in blundering. It really is a most amusing spectacle to watch Strauss as a metaphysical architect building castles in the air. But for whose benefit is this entertainment given? For the smug and noble we, that they may not lose conceit with themselves. They may possibly have taken sudden fright in the midst of the inflexible and pitiless wheel-works of the world machine, and are tremulously imploring their leader to come to their aid. That is why Strauss pours forth the soothing oil. That is why he leads forth on a leash a God whose passion it is to err. It is for the same reason, too, that he assumes for once the utterly unsuitable role of a metaphysical architect. He does all this because the noble souls already referred to are frightened, and because he is too. And it is here that we reach the limit of his courage, even in the presence of his we. He does not dare to be honest and to tell them, for instance, "I have liberated you from a helping and pitiful God. The cosmos is no more than an inflexible machine. Beware of its wheels, that they do not crush you." He dare not do this. Consequently, he must enlist the help of a witch, and he turns to metaphysics. To the Philistine, however, even Strauss's metaphysics is preferable to Christianity's, and the notion of an erratic God more congenial than that of one who works miracles. For the Philistine himself errs, but has never yet performed a miracle.